Hey everyone, it's Jeannie with Talk to Me Tuesday. It is Tuesday, March the 3rd. I hope everyone's had a wonderful week and a wonderfully crafty week. It has been a little bit since I've done a video. I think the last that I worked on was my Elvis quilt. That I did the Elvis quilt and the memory quilt that I was working on. So I finished both of them up, and they absolutely loved them. There was no issues with that. I did worked on this one. It is a pretty simple quilt, but this fabric I actually picked up in Houston when I went last year, and I finally had an opportunity to put it together. But I'm really really happy with it. And then I also finished up a lap quilt that I had created. I had actually pieced it earlier last year, but I never got to quilting it. When I was putting this one together, I went ahead and quilted it while I was there. I will say that my quilting has went a little bit better. I'm just using my regular sewing machine because I have my big system in storage. Um, During the process of doing my paper piecing for the Elvis quilt and for the memory quilt, I realized that I couldn't find my standard add a quarter ruler. I could find my add an eighth, but not add a quarter. So I decided to order me a new ruler. And in the process, I'm like, oh, I'll go ahead and order me another add a eighth also, while I'm at it. But it's two separate orders, but anyways. Well, I finally got my new add a quarter, and I have to say I'm really, really happy with it because first of all, it came in a set, but it's actually quite wide. So I don't know, when you're dealing with, here lately I've been working on like big patterns, and having a little bit of extra weight on my ruler has come in really handy, and it gives me a nice grip. And then this little the smaller one just came in handy, for when I'm working on them little corners and stuff like that. So I'm very, very pleased with both of these. And like I said, they came as a set, and I got them from Amazon. I had the eighth at the same time, but it wasn't coming in, and I thought it would just be a standard one. So I decided to go back, and it looked like there was some shipping issues with it. So I just canceled the order, and I used a different vendor, and I ordered another one. Well, wouldn't you know it, both of them actually ended up coming in, so I just paid for both of them. Somehow I wasn't paying attention to the first one that I purchased, and it ended up being this mini thing. Which I really, really love. I haven't even used it yet because I still had my other add an eighth, but it is starting to look pretty rough, and I've done nicked like the edges of it pretty bad, but I haven't quite opened it. But I'm actually quite pleased with the daintiness of it, I guess. And then of course my standard new one came in, so I'll be using that. I haven't quite given up on my original one yet, but so all new rulers for my add an eighth and add a quarter. Some of you may know that I'm working on a new quilt, and this one haven't really worked on a really, really big design. So right now I'm working on designing and testing a Tomb Raider quilt. And so I'm not ready to share all of those patterns with you yet, but I wanted to there's a few of my patterns that I used on the Stargate quilt. And then I also have been working on the runic alphabet that Jennifer had made. So just kind of wanted to give y'all an update on that. This is one of the patterns that I've decided to completely rework. I put it together. This is the Trinity logo, and actually it turned out really cute, but the seams are way, way too heavy, and the thought of quilting through that is just too much. So I have completely taken it off the list and completely simplified it. And so this weekend I plan on doing round 2 and trying to make this again, but it's going to be extremely simple. But all these like little folds and stuff, the seams are just too heavy. So If it was in a 10 by 10, maybe, but the 5 by 5 is just too small. I feel like it's just too small. So of course the background of my quilt is going to be camo, which I'm really pleased with. At first I was like, I don't know, but I'm really liking that. So have that. This right here is from the Stargate quilt. It was originally the Eye of Ra, and if you just flip it in reverse, it becomes the Eye of Horus. So that is one of the patterns. This is also from a Stargate quilt. It's the Scarab. I'm really pleased with how that turned out. This is another one that I've had to, of course, compass, but this seam right here is way too heavy. So I went and I reworked these sections so that we can thin that out a little bit, and I'll remake it this weekend. But for the most part, this is the compass pattern, but I don't know. It's just too heavy. I'm not going to be happy with that. So I made it through quite a bit of Jennifer's runic. And then, of course, that is the actual Eye of Ra from my Stargate quilt that I'll be putting on the border. So it'll be this against this. I'm getting pretty excited because I'm very close to putting it together. Sunday, the kids were playing around. I actually wasn't at home, but the kids were playing around the house and got our dog Elvira all worked up. And y'all know I had to move all of my quilting stuff into storage, and so I just got this little bitty area in the kitchen. Well, one of my cables was within tripping range of Elvira, and she tripped over one of my cables and in the process pulled my sewing machine down, and it landed on its side where the wheel is, and it jammed everything up. Me and my husband, we tried to take it apart and see if we couldn't figure it out, but this is above my pay grade. So I brought out my old sewing machine, my old Faithful, the one that I've had it forever. And so I decided not to try to fix my other one. I'm going to have to send it in. Now I've got to figure out where to send it. I'm not going to be able to quilt this quilt, and it's going to end up being 70 by 80. I'm not even going to try to attempt to do it on that little bitty machine. So I will be getting someone else to quilt it for me. Pretty much what I've got going on. I'm working on that quilt, and I'm getting pretty excited about. I'm almost at the point where I can start putting it together. So, anyways, that's all I've got going on, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Bye.